first song. Thank you all for coming, by the way. Our first song is Dirty Old Town by Ewan McCall. It's a song of sort of love and hate. Love for a girl and hate for the working conditions and where he lives in this dirty old town. So I think we can proceed now. So, I met my love by the gasworks wall. I dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall. Oh, dirty old town, oh, dirty old town. The clouds, they're drifting across the moon. Cats are prowling on their beat. There springs a girl from the street at night. Oh, dirty old town, oh, dirty old town. I heard a siren from the dawn. I saw a train set the night on fire. I smelled the spring of the smoky wind. Oh, dirty old town, dirty old town. I'm going to take a big job axe, shining steel tempered in the fire, and I'll chop you down like some old dead tree. Oh, dirty old town, oh, dirty old town. I met my love by the gasworks wall. Dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall. Oh, dirty old town, oh, dirty old town. Dirty old town, dirty old town.
This is the best we're going to get. You can leave now. Good morning. And thank you for coming. She's the interviewer. She's only speaking of me, but I'm nervous, so anyway, she's going to...
Okay, I'm just going to introduce Anna. If you cannot hear me, please let me know because I have a bad cold, sore throat, you know.
Like everyone else.
Yes.
Yeah. 89% of people.
Okay, so Ana Garcia was born in Segovia, but she studied English language and literature in Madrid. Then she moved to Valencia, where she started to work as a literature professor at the University of Valencia first, and then as an English language teacher at the EOI. In the last years, she has combined teaching and writing, and this book, El Sendero de la Palabra, is her first published novel, though she has written 3 novels. So, Anna, how do you combine writing and teaching?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. Thanks to the school for offering me the chance to present here my novel. Yeah. And your question is how I combine writing
Not easy,
and
imagine.
teaching. No, with great difficulty, as you can imagine. It's just like having 2 jobs. But
Yes.
when you love what you do, it's I'm not going to say easy, but you find time where there is no time. No? So yeah, I mean, my spare time, my weekends, or when you have to do something, you do it, and you find the
Exactly.
time. So that's how I do it. I mean, and teaching doesn't take so many hours, so well, I can devote more time to my passion because this is really my passion.
Okay, great. Now, let's talk about your book. This book is set in Ireland. Why Ireland?
Well, because I feel I have a special connection to this island, and I don't know. I've always felt it. I don't know why. I mean, it's one of those irrational connections that you do to something. You cannot explain it really, but you feel it. No? For example, there are people who love manga comics and they've never been to Japan, or you might like picnic writings or road movies, and you've never been to the USA. So
But
I mean,
you have been to Ireland many
I
times.
have, but I started feeling something towards it before I was there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think that this love or this interest came through music first,
Okay.
and then through, well, I've been an English literature lecturer, as you said, so I was in contact not only with British writers, but also with Irish ones. So by knowing the literature, the history of the country, and all that, I got interested in it, mostly about the events, the historical events that took place during the 20th century, you know, the IRA, terrorist attacks and things like that. But then I got engaged in the history. I went back the centuries, back to the...
Don't reveal too much.
No.
We are going to talk about that later.
A period of history that is really very interesting for me from the British and the Irish points of view.
Okay, so when we said island, here in your book we have the cliffs of Moher. And
Yeah, they're all the
yes,
time. The
exactly.
cliffs, yeah, okay. So you will see, well, I'll explain later, but I mean,
Yes.
most of the pictures are about the cliffs of Moher, County Clare, west of Ireland. If you haven't been there, you must go, get a ticket now. Finish here. Okay,
So landscape and scenery, which is the role they play?
Essential for me. Even before I traveled to Ireland for the first time, I felt attracted to it, to the landscapes, to the images. The first time I set foot there, I was dumbfounded, really. I was so impressed by the wild nature, by the landscape, by nature at its best, really. Yeah. Both with the beautiful impressions that it creates, but also with the terrible aspect of a rough nature, the power of nature. It can be terrible, really.
Yes.
It can be devastating too.
We
So
have
both
examples
aspects.
here.
Yes.
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 Of both.
Of
So.
both.
Okay, apart from nature and landscapes, we have language. Language is of paramount importance
Yes.
in your book.
Yes.
So, first the title, El Sendero de la Palabra, clearly reflects that.
Yeah.
So, how did you come up with the title?
Usually, usually before I start writing a story, the title comes to me. That has been like that for the first 3 novels. In the 4th one, that's not happening. I don't have the title yet. But usually, yes, I have the title, and from there, the idea
You
springs.
develop the story, maybe?
Yeah. I think it's not that I adapt what is going to happen to the title, but let's say that it inspires. Inspires me, and it
Yes.
helps me to follow. In this case, the path, like
Exactly.
in a Sendero, no? The path.
Exactly, the path of
Yeah,
words.
the path of,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about what kind of language have you used in this novel?
Well,
Talking about words and...
yes, yes. Well, it is said, or it is a tradition to classify literature according to genres. You know, it's fantasy, it's I don't know, it's adventure, it is thriller, it is something like that. Yeah, romantic novel. Yeah, and fantasy use a kind of language that is very simple, perhaps for young readers, for people who are not used to dealing with complex texts, with elaborate language. That is not my case. I mean, I'm a philologist, so I'm used to reading the classics. That doesn't mean that I know
read extensively.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I know how to write like the classics. I'm not saying that about myself. I'm saying that everything that you have absorbed before,
exactly.
has a way
Your
of coming out.
influences.
Yeah, and then the type of language I use is elaborate. I mean, the syntax is not simple. Because I'm very interested in language. I
Would
think
you
it's the
say
main.
it is poetic, the language that you use?
I think it is
Yes.
very much. I use metaphor extensively, because it helps me reflect emotional states, the emotional landscape that is inside me is reflected on the language, and I think that is my main tool to try to convey what I want you to see when I write my text.
In fact, when I have read the book, I could visualize everything because the language is very powerful and the narrative, is very visual for me. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Well, that's the idea, no? that when you're writing a story, usually you can see some images. No? That's why very often books are made into films, no? Because there are things that could be very visually portrayed, and people can really see them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is something that is very interesting for me.
Okay, now let's move on to the main protagonist. What can you tell us about him?
The main protagonist is called Connell, and he's of Irish origin, but he lives in Spain. He's a university lecturer. He's around 30 years old. He lives in Spain with his mother, his sister, and another woman who's a kind of second mother, who's been helping to raise him up. And he has an ability, a special ability, which is a skill to tell stories. Yeah, so he's a good storyteller. He's an excellent storyteller. And that's
And there's a word for that we have there on the board.
Well,
Shanaki.
Shanaki, thank you. That's the pronunciation.